Good morning, everyone. Hello, happy Monday. We're here to paint with you bright and early on a Monday morning. I'm so happy to be here. I am doing my Craft Around the Clock segment this morning, as well as you're seeing me on my Tinker's Cart Art page. So welcome and good morning. I will be answering your questions best I can as we go along, as we're painting. But always remember, this is recorded. You can catch the recording later, and you can always see it on my page, Craft Around the Clock page. And any questions, as you put them up, I will answer them, even if it's later on after we finish. So good morning, welcome. I see you guys all signing in bright and early on a Monday morning. I'm very happy you're here. Say hello, please. And we are going to be painting an acrylic little landscape this morning. And good morning, Cheryl. It's going to be kind of an Irish theme. We have St. Patrick's Day coming up, but it's spring-like. It has the little sheep on it. So even if you are not looking for an Irish scene, you could use these techniques and paint a really cute little landscape. So good morning, good morning. I love it that you're all here. Please let me know where you're watching from. I love to see who's the closest to me. I'm in Central Mass, I'm in New England, and who is furthest away, and we have people from all over the world. So here on Craft Around the Clock. So welcome, welcome everyone. And like I said, say hello. I'm gonna jump in. You know, I kind of paint a little fast for a few reasons. I like to have my paint mix as I go, and acrylics, you know, they dry pretty quick. And we have 45 minutes, so we are on a roll. I am going to paint this morning on just a piece of canvas artboard. I have so many little samples from my little segments that it's hard to keep all those big stretched canvases around. So I found that I really like the Canva artboards. You can get them for watercolor, for acrylic, mixed media. And it really saves me space because I have it, it's on like a piece of mat board. So it's not just like the canvas paper, it's kind of stiff. Good morning, Jennifer from Michigan. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna dig in here and then we will talk as I go. I'm gonna try to keep it so you can see what I'm doing. I will turn it around a lot. Let me know though if there's something that's distracting and you can't see. I'm using my ordinary acrylics. I want you to jump in and paint, even if you've never painted before, but use what you have. You don't need a lot of materials. You don't have to set aside a lot of time. Wait till you see what we do in 45 minutes. And you can use what you have or some very expensive paints to start, and you just need basic colors. Good morning from Tennessee, and Jeannie, Carver, Mass. Okay, you're down towards the Cape. And Lynn, good morning. Let me know if I'm frozen. I think sometimes it's on the other end, but let me know. Hey, Cam, and nice to see you guys. And Chris, thank you. So ordinary acrylics, what you have. If you have the little craft paints, great. I do like the Liquitex acrylic basics. If you have heavy bodied in the tubes, whatever you have, just give it a whirl. Okay, so let me go on and start. I'm doing a landscape. I like to start at the top and work down, and that way I'm not putting my hand in the wet paint. And sometimes I'll work back to forward, but you'll see we're gonna start with the sky. I'm making a night sky on this little scene. It's gonna be a little scene. You might have seen the picture. Has a little cottage and some little sheep. And so brushes. You can use very inexpensive brushes too. I have some just very inexpensive acrylic brushes. I also really like for my landscapes. Hi Charlotte, good morning my friend. They're a hog bristle brush. They're a filbert, which means they're rounded on the top. And what I like about these guys, they're very rough and stiffer, and they dig into the nooks and crannies of the canvas nicely. So I go back and forth. I'll show you what brushes I'm using as I go along. And did you guys all see Chris's Easter hat? That was so cute, the bunny hat. I love it. I get so inspired on Craft Around the Clock here with all of the crafts. And if you're my Tinker's Cart Art peep, do check out Craft Around the Clock. The link is in my description because there's crafting there every weekday from sunup to past sundown. And I am learning so much about different crafts. It's great to expand your horizons a little bit. So jump in and see what you might like to watch. Oops, sorry, turned my sound on, my mistake on my laptop. Okay. I'm just using a dark blue paint. It's actually just a phthalo blue. It's Liquitex, whatever dark blue you have. I'm taking it on my hog bristle brush and I am just going and putting it down on my canvas. And you can see I'm using like a little Xy stroke. The acrylic paints are a little transparent, and if you were to paint back and forth like this, you would see the streaks, which actually work well if I'm painting water. But for skies and landscapes, I use that textured stroke so that even though you see through the paint, but look at how it gives you some atmosphere. It looks lighter and darker, which is a natural look. So that's how I create that super simple. I am just going to do the whole sky that dark blue with these little crisscrossy strokes. And because this brush is the hog bristle, it digs into those nooks and crannies and covers pretty well. But you might find that when the paint dries, you have little white speckles because the little bits of those nooks and crannies didn't get covered with paint. So don't worry about that. Once the paint dries, you can go back and, you know, dig your paint in. The good thing about acrylics is we're not worried about it. We can fix anything afterwards. If you don't like something, you could paint it completely over. So I want you to paint without worrying about, oh, I don't like the way it looks. Oh, it's not coming out right. All the paintings go through ugly stages, and then in the end, they turn out. Believe me, tell my people that are here that follow me, tell them they turn out beautifully. Don't stress while you're painting. Just have fun with it. And at the end, you either have a masterpiece or you've learned some lessons, but you can paint over. So as simple as that. Dark blue sky. Doesn't it look a little sky-like already because of the transparency sometimes of the paint? And I think I'm going to take my brush and dip into the teeniest bit of white, just a tiny bit. And I might just put that in here and there because I'm painting quickly and my paint's a little wet still. I can paint some white in there and it just kind of blends just by itself almost. So I'm taking tiny bits of white just so I have a little bit of a lighter sky, maybe down towards the mountains here a little bit. And because the blue is wet, it's blending nicely for me. And so that's just how I'm going to leave it, except for when I add the moon and some stars. So that's it. Very easy, very simple. And now I'm going to work down into my mountains. I have some purple mountains across here. Going into a purple, I don't need to wash my brush. I'm just going to wipe it off. I'll simply wipe it off there. Hey, good morning, Katie. Hey, Zena. Nice to see you guys. I have just a dioxazine purple here. Any purple will do. Or if you just have your primaries, you can mix a blue and a red and you'll get a purple. Like I said, you don't need all the colors. I'm going to paint those mountains in purple. And I'm just painting them in for now. And the purple's pretty streaky itself, but that's okay. I'm going to get one coat. If the paint is really see-through and it's a little distracting and you want a little more solid coverage, there's a couple of things. First of all, just let it dry really well and put a second coat. Don't try to rush it. Don't try to put it right on while it's wet. You just take off that first coat. So have a little patience or put on your hairdryer or your heat gun. Some of my blue is mixing in with the purple, which is perfectly fine. I like to mix my colors on my palette too and not mix up a perfect little shade of color. I like dipping into the colors, mixing them on the palette for a more natural look because the mountains themselves really would have lots of different shades. So you don't want that perfect shade of purple and paint it on, then perfect shade of purple, paint another coat. You want to dip into your blue, dip into your white and get it a little bit lighter and darker. This is very wet still and light. But I want the tip of those mountains to have a little bit of a lighter shade. So again, just little bits of white. And I'm lucky because the mountains are still wet. And I'm going to go right across the top with that lighter shade. And I'm just going to dry my brush off. It's wet enough. I can use my dry brush to just soften it in. I'm dragging that little bit of white into the purple. It's a little wet still, and it's going to give me a nice look at the top. I'm going to go back in and I'm sort of scumbling, which is taking the brush with a tiny bit of paint, dipping it on, and really get it scumbling along. And you're going to get a little bit lighter area for the tops of those mountains. Now, if I want to, sometimes I like to make it look like one mountain's in front of another. Super simple. Just take your white down like this. Starts looking like that's in front. I could go a little deeper purple there, but you see, it's very background stuff in this painting. Our focal point will be our little cottage and our sheep. So we're not going to spend a lot of time details on this background. I do want to put a moon in my sky though. Now that that's dry, one color that's very, very hard to get good coverage with is yellow. It's very transparent, but I'm going to take white first. And this is how easy I do my sky, my sun and moons. So simple. I just take a brush load of white, I plop it down, I spiral out, and I'll do that a few times as a base for my yellow. Look at how rough that is. But when I finish, I like the rough edge, the little paint is worn off the brush, and for the edge of the moon or the sun, I like that look because it's kind of a soft look, not a harsh circle just painted on my sky. So I'm going to put a couple coats of white to make that moon. I'm going to let that dry. I'm not going to bother with it. And I'm going to just put a few stars in the sky. There's a couple of ways. I love spattering with a toothbrush, but sometimes I want a more graphic look. So I'm going to just take a little stylus. You could use the back end of your paintbrush. You could use a toothpick. I'm taking white paint and I'm just going to dot in some stars. Like I said, sometimes I love that look where you spatter, which is great for snow. It's great for stars. You take an old toothbrush, you spatter your paint. But I want a little more graphic look on this painting. So we're going to just do that. Give ourselves a little bit of stars there. Let that dry, do another coat of white. We've got the green of the fields here. So we're going to do that next. And then on top of that, we'll put our more interesting elements like our little sheep, maybe some little roses, a little cottage. We're ambitious, aren't we, this morning for 45 minutes? So we have until 10 o'clock, we have loads of time. And so when you think, oh, I wish I had time to paint, I just don't really have time, sit down with little segments of time and you'll be surprised what you can get. Okay, I want 3 little green fields, slightly different in green. For my greens, I love the phthalo green with a primary yellow, and I can mix all the shades I want. Now, if you have a big collection of paint, now naturally you could go ahead and just use different greens that you have in the bottles. But I try to keep it simple for people so that they don't need to go out and buy a lot of paint. Use, like I said, the basics first. This back field's going to be a little darker. Might add a little blue, maybe even a touch of black. I want kind of a dark green back here. And I'm just going to fill it in. And I am going around my little cottage. Because that's a white cottage, I don't want to try to put the white paint over the green. So just to save afterwards, I'm just going to go along and outline. Just using a flat acrylic brush. Flat acrylic brushes are fabulous because you can use them for a nice wide stroke, but you can also use a nice thin, you can get a really thin line as well. So very versatile when you're painting. You don't have to switch up your brushes quite so much. And I could even use a larger brush to fill in this big area, but just go around your little cottage, paint in with a little bit of a darker green. You can put a few coats if you want a real solid coverage, but I'm going to put a few little decorative touches on these back fields, so I'm not going to worry about a second coat. But when you're painting yours and you're not doing it in 45 minutes, you can add some little more touches and things. And good morning, everyone. I don't want to ignore you. I'm going to come back after to the comments, and I'll look at them as best I can when they come up. Good morning, Denise. Thank you for watching and popping in. And what I do is I teach painting, as you can see. I love teaching absolute beginners who have never painted before because I teach you in a step-by-step method. Not usually quite so fast as this, but you get the idea. And I want you to know it's not hard. It's not something you have to be born with the talent to paint. You know, people are born with that and they can draw, and you don't need all that. If you want to just, you know, get the joy of painting, it's for everyone. You can learn step by step, painting some fun paintings, enjoy the experience, learn new things. That's good for all of us. I'm painting a lighter green here. I just took yellow into my green. That's all I did to get that lighter shade. I just want a little bit slightly different shade of green. You know, the 40 shades of green, right, you guys? Okay, so we'll get this little forward-facing field here done. I am using kind of a small brush. I would probably use a bigger brush, but it's in my hand, and that's what I'm going with. So I do have a little bit more longer detailed classes on YouTube if you want to pop over and Tinker's Cart Art on YouTube. I've got lots of social media presence on social media. You can have some longer classes. I have a lot of free classes on YouTube. I also do paid classes, one-off classes online, or I have an art membership. If you want to really dig in a little deeper, paint with me every month, paint with me live. I'd love to have you check out all my options there. I'd love for you to share your paintings too, please. As you're painting things, doesn't have to be one of my paintings. It doesn't have to be this painting, but I'd love to see what you're all working on. So please do share what's going on. Even if it's a different type of craft or art or craft, please, we'd love to see it. We all get so many ideas from each other. The best part about the whole social media presence in my memberships and my classes is the community aspect. We team up with people from all over the world who share a love of crafting and creating. Nothing like that. Alrighty, so I am going to get a little white into my green I was using because I just want to get a little bit different shade here on this little field. Just a little different. We're going to put some little sheep on here, which are simple, super cute. You'll be ready for St. Patrick's Day or even just like a little springtime scene. So there we are. We've got all our fields covered. I'm going to put a second coat on that little base there for my moon. And again, it's just plunking it down and just doing that. And then we'll put yellow on that when that dries. Hey, Pam. Oh, I'm glad my video is clear, but you know, this is just my iPhone, believe it or not. I have fancy cameras and all the gear, but the iPhone does a great job. So that's all I'm using this morning. And now we're going to work forward. So I work back forward, and I'm going to get my cottage based in. It's a little Irish stucco cottage. You've seen them all. And what I do a lot of times when I'm painting elements and things, I start dark and work light. And the cottage is white, but I'm going to start with kind of a blue-gray. And then I can build it up lighter. Gives you a little bit of a stucco look, leaving some of the blue-gray showing. It's like shadows under the rooftop. And it gives you a way to highlight and shade very easily. If I went in right now and just painted that all white, it's very flat. But I'm going to start with a blue-gray. I have a little Payne's Gray here, which is a very blue-gray. But you can simply take a little blue and black and just make yourself up a slate blue. And I'm just painting the white of the little cottage. I'm going to go to a little smaller brush. I'm just prepping it. I'm just underpainting it. A little bit of blue. It's just kind of a light gray blue. I'm going to do the little chimney there the same. The roof is going to be a thatch, so that'll be kind of a gold yellow. But for now, anything that's white, I'll paint around those little windows, is simply a blue-gray. Again, you might have that color in a bottle, but if not, just take a little smidge of blue, a smidge of black, a lot of white, and you will get that shade. Again, I'm not worrying about it being perfect. It's darker and lighter, more blue in places. I don't mind. It makes it look natural. I'm not worrying about perfect brush strokes. I like to paint with a little bit more of a painterly look. Not so perfect. I don't want it to look like a photograph. And that shouldn't be your end goal. I know people say, oh, I love your painting. It looks just like a photograph. And they think that's like a compliment. But I'd rather have my painting look like a painting and a painting of mine, not a photo. We can take a million photos on our phone. How often do we look at them? If you do a painting, you're going to really look at that. And the idea is it's not going to look like everyone else's. You're going to paint your painting and it's not going to look like mine. So I hear from my students a lot, oh my, it doesn't look like yours. But it shouldn't. This is going to look nothing like the first one I painted. So I can't even make it look like mine. You want your own touch. You want it to be a little different. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be wonky. You can use different colors. And if you had fun while you're sitting there painting, is not that the best part? Is the experience, right? I'm using the front screen, actually, of my camera. My phone, actually. I've not done it much with the other side. Sometimes when I have it above me, maybe I would do that. But usually it's just the front screen. And sometimes I do go through StreamYard, which is when you see me with the camera facing the painting and then my face separate. That's through StreamYard, which is kind of nice. But for the format here, when I go live, it's nice to have that vertical format. That's why, unfortunately, you're kind of watching me upside down. But when you watch my YouTube videos or in my membership and whatnot, you are looking at just my hands working in the right format. So, base coat there. I'm going to base coat my roof. It's going to be a little brighter yellow than this, but I am using another one of my favorite colors. It's like a yellow ochre. In the Deco Art paints, it's called Deep Ochre, I believe. I have a few core paints that I use all the time. And I do narrow that down and tell you what they are. But again, I don't expect you to have to use exactly what I use. You'll find what you like too. But sometimes it's kind of nice to know the color I'm using, and you can get the same result maybe if you're using a very similar color. So these are just the base coats. That's just a little underpainting there. The little middle of the windows, I think I'll just make them kind of a dark bluey gray, black, a little bit of a blue black, and then when it's dry I'll streak a little white over it. Very little indication of like a pane of glass. It's little. We're not going to be too picky on that. It's just going to be a little, just to base coat it in there, maybe a little darker than that. We'll just go ahead and just get some little windows. And what I like about these little small flat brushes, sometimes they're the right size exactly for little windows and doors and things. So it's nice to have a little smaller flat size too. This is a little rough. I'm doing it kind of quickly for you. Let me watch my time here. Oh, we've got 20 minutes, right? We'll finish this up pretty quick. You'll be surprised. I like putting red doors on my cottages. You can use any color you like. I'm going to do my little door red. I'm going to pop back up and do my moon now. I do like that working top to down to do bottom. My brush is washed this time. And I'm just going right into my yellow. Same exact brush stroke. I'm just plopping it in, spiraling it out, and calling it a day. You could tap in with a little white if you want to make it a little less bright. And I use this for sun and moon. I like the way it gets kind of light and feathery towards the outside edge. That's all you need for a moon or sun. And now I want to add just a couple details to my fields. I paint a little more whimsically. I use a lot of like spirals and stripes and dots and things. So I'm going to thin down a green, a light green. When I'm doing a detail or some work that's finer, I always add a little water to my paint, making it a little bit thinner. And I am going to get a light green. I have a dark field back here, and I just want a light green to throw a few stripes in there as a decorative touch, but you know how you see the fields, the green fields. Sometimes because they've been plowed or whatnot, there's like little directional lines and things. This is just a take on that. And all across the back, I am just, I know my hand's probably kind of blocking there. Let's just, maybe upside down will work. You'll get the idea. Just a little pattern in the back, just for fun. In the front, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a pattern of stripes again in this little section, but I think I need a little more green paint. And again, I thin it down when I need to. Let's just do this way. You could do squiggly lines. You could do anything. And you might have seen me painting recently some little whimsical Irish cottages, and I put a lot of little patch work in the back, and I fill them with stripes and little hearts and squiggles. I believe I have a recording on my page just the other day that I did that as a quick little video. So check out Tinker's Cart Art, and you'll see some little videos there I put out. Told you I love spirals. I love spirals. So I'm just going to take a little round brush, again thinning it down, and I'm going to get a lighter green. The green I just used, I'm just adding a little white, a little yellow, and I love to do these spirals just as a little decorative thing. I am thinning down the paint because you want it more like ink when you're doing something like this than heavy body paint. They're just little spirals. I placed the brush very similar to how I did the little moon. And just go along and put that little pattern in there. And I'm adding a lot of water too so that it's a little more transparent, not jumping out at you. You want it to be there, but sort of as a little subtle design. So that's how I did my little background fields there, you guys. Hey, Robin and Pam, thanks for watching. We need to brighten our cottage up, of course. And we will just take some white paint now. I'm going to take it kind of light and scumble a little bit, which means a tiny bit of paint, kind of a dry brush. And I'm going to just kind of go over what's there. and just brighten this up. And I'll probably do this in a couple coats, but I do like the idea that I can leave a little bit of the blue showing, especially under the roof where there'd be a little shadow cast. Make sure you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm painting over the blue, but I'm letting some show through in places. And what I do is I put the white on, and I let it dry, and then I build it up to as bright a white as I want, mostly in the middle sections. I'm going to just kind of keep going back at that, but I like to start with that gray blue. The roof is pretty simple. I just take the brush, and you can use a thin brush or a liner brush. I'm going to use my brush on the chisel edge. I'm taking my yellow, and I'm simply going to just give it these little strips. I need a little white maybe so you can see that. I am just making it look a little like thatch, which is like straw. And I'm using just my yellows with white. The yellow, again, is just too translucent on its own, I think. So I'm going to just build it up brighter still. I may even take a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of a brown in there and stripe a little of that in. You'd have some shadows. And so it's a layering. Once I start with all the basics, you can see I add details, I add highlights, I layer in shades of color. Pretty simple process. A little more white maybe in my yellow, get it even a little brighter. And just layering in what looks like little straw, little rush. And I could kind of finish up something like that pretty easy. And like I said, as it dries, I go back and just brighten up my white on my cottage. I told you guys before, I sometimes don't decide until the morning, right before, like, what am I going to paint today? And I scramble around. I don't even think twice about, well, can I do it in 15 minutes? I just jump in. And usually it's pretty good. I did just get a little water there, so let's just absorb that out. And again, I want my cottage brighter, but I'd rather have you start on the lighter side with the white and then build it up than go too heavy and cover up everything you've put on there. So I just keep brightening it up. I take a little, I actually could have done that with that brush. I take a little white. My windows look like black holes. Just a little white and just do a little, you know, you've seen that little highlight, kind of just a few strokes of white there. I use my liner brush and just put in the window panes, just in white. Doesn't have to be fancy, just a little window pane. I might even take a little bit of brown on my little brush again. Maybe just because on the bottom of the little roof, it might be a little darker. So I might just put a little shadow along there. Just a little. And I sometimes can put even a little shadow on my door. That's kind of a tiny detail, but some red and black makes a fabulous maroon. I never get a maroon that's mixed. I can never get it deep enough in the paints that I buy, so I just make up a little maroon with some black and red. And I might just want a little shadow around the edge of the door as well. You can kind of see that. And let's see, we've got some sheep. I even put some little roses in there. Oh, you know what I love to do? Put a little bit of smoke coming out of the chimney, which is very watered down white, so it's like watercolor. It's very watery almost. And of course, what will I do is come some spirals. We can do a little bit of that. And the more water you add, the more transparent and more smoke-like it looks. What? Oh, path. We can put a little path from the door, which I think I just did it in kind of a white, a transparent white, just like that smoke. Kind of just going off to nowhere, just a little path. Let me show you quickly how we do sheep, and I'll show you, probably have time for a few little roses maybe too. And sheep, I do a little underpainting just like I did on the cottage, just with that same gray blue. Little black and a little blue and white, and so we just get a gray. Same idea, because their bodies need a little shading. This kind of does it for us without having to paint the little sheep in and then go back and then, you know, add shadows. And I place them, they're whimsical. So they're really just going to be little fluffy ovals or little fluffy rounds. I'm going to paint a bunch on here and then I'll show you. And then they kind of turn into sheep, just adding a little head and some legs. So fun. And I've done paintings before where they're bigger in the front, and then in the back they get a little smaller, and in the very back they could just be little white dots, because in Ireland, you look springtime, those lambs and sheep are everywhere, all the baby lambs are out, and you see them everywhere, just little white dots on all the fields. So as I get to the front, maybe I'll make them a little bigger, and that way I can show you a little easier the detailing on them, which really is not much. So if you want to make sheep, make a bunch of fluffy little cloud shapes in like a gray-blue. That's all you need. Some are more round, some are oval. Simple, simple, simple. And I'm going to just put, just so I can show you a quick little one-stroke rose, I'm going to put in some shrubbery to put those roses on. So what I need to say, yeah, the small ones could be little baby lambs. Tell Willow hello. Hi, Willow. Hi, Lisa Marie. Hi, hi, hi. So good to see all my friends popping in, and some of my students and my fellow business people. Lisa Marie and I just spent a week down in Destin, Florida, a business retreat that Lisa Marie held for us membership owners and online business people, and it was fabulous. And thank you for showing up. And hi, Bobby. Yeah. So what was I? Sheep, lamb. Oh, I'm going to take a dark green again. And around the cottage, I'm going to just put that in so that I can put some little roses there. I just like to add that touch of pink to this painting, which is very green. So I'm just getting a dark green just to start. So I use my phthalo with a little blue and black mixed. And I'm just going to put in some shrubbery that will show up more when the little roses go on it. So maybe there's a little bit of roses on a little shrub by the front door, and maybe I'll go a little bigger here. I also like sometimes just to put a little shrub down here. Let's just do that. Just some dark green, sorry, but there is blue in there. That's just going to be a little place to put our little roses. And you can take this painting and change all the elements around. You could add a little tiny cottage back here. You could put sheep somewhere else. I like to give you ideas, but I love it when you go off on your own and add things and whatnot. Daffodils. Yes, daffodils, Lisa, would be cool. I did a painting, I don't know if you can see it back here, a cottage with little poppies in front, little red poppies, and more of a daytime sky. This is a great starting point to do many, many things. I even actually on mine wrote a little name over the doorway, so if you were giving it as a gift and you wanted to personalize it, you could do that. Okay, so to finish up our little sheep, we're going to take just regular white, and you can use any brush. You can use like this brush and just, I'm dabbing on, kind of keeping it kind of like textured, or a round brush, and I just kind of make little half circles and just, I'm dabbing it on for some texture. I'm using the paint very thick because I want it to be the texture kind of the sheep. I want some of that blue showing through, so I'm not carefully painting on top of what I just did. I'm dabbing it on. Look at how haphazard, just dabbing it on. It could go over the edge as long as you got little dabby strokes and it is kind of textured. Yeah, I mean, Lisa Marie, great housewarming, shower, wedding. If you do a painting and add their name somewhere, people love to have their names on things, and this is super simple. You could add the names with a paint marker. So easy. You don't have to worry about my paint, detail work is not great and I can't use the small brush, and paint markers can be your friend. They're fabulous. I love the Posca brand. You can try them all, but I've had great luck with the Posca. They have a wide marker. They have a thin. They even have a brush marker, which is really fun. And like I said, I'm kind of see all of you on here saying hello, and I really appreciate it. I will go back and answer any questions when we finish up. So if you have any questions at all, put them there, send me a message, pop on over to my page, follow me for all kinds of tips and classes, whether you're brand new, never painted, or you paint, I can give you some ideas. I'd love it if you painted with me. I have a class actually Thursday night. You'll see it on my page, a big whimsical carrot, and it's a $10 class Thursday night. It's live, but you could just go use the recording afterwards. Like I said, have the art memberships, whatever. There's my sheep now. I've just dabbed on a heavier coat of white. For the roses, I'm just going to use like a maroon to start. And so I'm taking that maroon I mixed for my door, tiny bit of black again, to my red. And they're simply little circles. Very dark, but we'll brighten them up, so don't worry. And I'm not making perfect circles. Back here, I'm almost just dabbing it on, just to put them in place. We're going to turn those into little roses afterwards. We need a little base coat. I even want my little house to be a little brighter, so let me pop in there and take a nice heavy white and just dab it in. And the stucco is a texture like that, so taking the thick white paint and dabbing it on works for the final coat. You get that texture of the stucco. If it was just a generic kind of painting, you could write welcome over the door. If you wanted to be fancy, you had an Irish friend, you could write falcher, which is Gaelic for welcome. You could put that there. And then if you eyeball your sheep, and some are a little bit too gray, because as you paint, the paint sort of dries and sort of fades a little bit. I have no problem going back and really dabbing on some heavier bits. I might go back and do that after. I want to do the little faces, and I don't want the paint to be too wet for that. So we have our poor little sheep with no faces. Look at how easy it'll be. I'm taking black paint. I'm going to use my little round brush. I'm going to thin the paint down, just so it's like, again, more like ink, not just a heavier paint. And they simply have little oval heads. So what I do is I just pop on a little one brush stroke for a little head of my sheep. And then I give him just a couple little ears maybe. And let me show you actually on something. This is because it's hard to see what I'm doing maybe, but so I've got their little sheep bodies. Really one stroke for a little head, a couple of little ears, 2 little strokes. That's all it is for their little faces. Just like I press the brush, I pull it, and I put a couple of ears. Basic little face. You don't need to put eyes on them. If they're big, you can put little white dots, but you don't really need that. As they go back in the field, you could just have little white puffy dots. So I'm just going to put those. Now, sometimes if it's a round shape, which I say do some round, is because I put the face right in the front facing you. You could have them facing this way, that way. You would almost look at them and they kind of define like, oh, this looks like this one's facing this way already. This one looks like it's lying down and has the head right here. So put on the faces first, heads and little ears, and then we will do some little legs. They're just simply little sticks painted on. And some, like I said, could be lying down. And this little guy, let's make him facing this way. There's all their little faces. Some are facing front, some are facing right or left. It's not any particular thing, it has to be. And then the legs, really, just little sticks. And laying down ones don't even need them, or they can tuck them underneath. I'll show you what that looks like. The front-facing ones, you could just put 2 little legs. It's whimsical. It's not supposed to look realistic. Really fun. You can make these little sheep, add them to lots of different paintings, really. So you can see how I made one little guy with his legs tucked underneath there. And then some have just they're little sticks. I didn't even put shadows under them on mine original, but if you wanted to, you could take a really watered down green and make like a little shadow so it looks like they're, kind of setting on the ground more than just floating and hovering. You could just put a little wash of green under them. Little roses, super simple. Did you think we were going to make it? I wondered a little bit, but look, we've got 7 minutes left. Plenty of time to do all kinds of things. But, so for little one-stroke roses, let me show you actually on the plate a little bit. Let me get a pink here. I started in the maroon on here for a base, but here's like a little, they're just little circle. That's not even a circle, just little circle shapes roughly with your brush. And what I do is I just go on top of them, and with my white paint, maybe thinned a little bit, just like we did on that little moon, plunk your brush in the middle and spiral out, and that is going to give you the appearance of a little rose because they are going to be super teeny. That's all you're going to need to do. So I'm going to go now into some red and white a little bit. I'm getting a brighter pink. Again, I like to go dark to light just to give the lighter things something to pop from. That's why these little maroon blobs are so dark. But now I'm going to just go in and kind of just cover a little bit with a little spiral shape. some of the dark shows through with now just a lighter pink. I'm not done yet. I'm going to go back with some white. These guys back here are almost just little dots. They don't have to be much because they're so small back there. I'm just going to dot them. But I can at least show you on that front bush the detail. I'm going to wash off my brush because I want a high white right now. Hi. Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for watching. I'm trying to keep track of you, but I know I tend to go more painting and less chit-chatting, but I do want you to see what I'm doing. So just white now, the small brush, just like we did this, just put it in and spiral out, and it gives you little roses. It's kind of hard because I'm upside down here and bleary-eyed because it's first thing in the morning. I know it's probably even earlier for some of you that are watching. But let me know what you think. And I'm on every week painting with you, so let me know what you might want to paint. I'd be happy to take suggestions. And if you have ideas, send them to me. Message me. I think I'm going to take white while I got it and put like kind of more of a stronger spiral right in my sun. And I'm going to just keep dabbing. And I think I even will take a little light green. There's a lot of dark green beside my roses. I think I'll take a kind of a lime green, a lighter color, make a few little leaves, you know, because we have 4 minutes, you know, I mean, right? I kind of wish it was like Zoom when I do my Zoom classes that you guys could talk to me too, because I'm trying to look up, but I would love it if you could just be shouting out questions and comments. You could go on here, like I said, make some little leaf shapes, very simple. I want to make it simple for you. I could add some of that up here, some of that light green into that dark. There's those little roses on the corner. You can see, and in the back, they don't have to be quite so bright. But you can go back now. Now it's the good thing. Now you can go back and look at it, and I might sometimes say, you know, I want to have a little bit of a brighter white on the top of my mountains. But you could do that kind of with the scumbling technique. It's that rough brush again, dry, tiniest bit of white, not a lot. I even take some off the brush. And I might just go across the top and use just the dry brush for the technique. Can you see that? Because of the canvas and the little texture of it, I'm basically just gliding the brush over the top and leaving it. I like the texture it's giving me, and I'll show it to you up close. See the texture you get when you just take a brush, a rougher brush, and scumble it, give it some dimension. And now is the time, and even while you're painting, really, guys, step back. No one's looking at your painting this close, so don't say, oh my God, it can't be. No, 4 feet away, and then you'll get an idea of how it looks, how the viewer's going to see it. If there's something wonky and off and you can't figure it out, take a picture of it, hold it up in front of a mirror, and you'll be surprised at how quickly any little thing that is off that you might not have seen pops out at you. Or just take a break from it. Simply walking away from it and looking at it the next day does wonders. So don't, and you know what? I do it the same thing. I do a painting for class. In the membership I give everybody, we have 4 different things a month, and I'll paint up the sample, and I'll be, oh, I don't like this at all. I'm getting up tomorrow. I'm going to paint it over. And then when I look at it the next day, it looks okay. So give yourself a little break sometimes and just have fun with it, like I say. And so what do you think? A little Irish cottage for spring or for St. Patrick's Day? Hey, Cynthia, thank you. Sue, thank you. Thank you guys all for watching. We have a whole day of crafting here on Craft Round the Clock, so stay tuned. And a little bit of DIY is coming up next, so I can't wait to see what she is working on. And I loved watching the few presenters this morning even. Like I said, any questions, you can direct message me. I have a link up in the description for my private community, which if you want to join that, that's a free community, and we do a lot over there, and I just love to paint with you all. So thank you, Cynthia. Oh, Sonia, thank you. It's a lot of fun. I love painting. I love teaching people how to paint. I love to teach absolute beginners because it's such a fun activity, and so many people grew up thinking they couldn't do it. They failed art class. The art teacher said they weren't good. Who cares? Just paint, right? Just paint. So thank you guys all for joining me, and stay tuned for more. And Teresa, thank you. Thank you guys. for watching. My eyes are so blurry this morning. I'm trying to see my little phone here. But anyway, the new presenter will be up in just a few minutes. And I'm going to be on Friday again, so stay tuned. And if you follow me, I'll tell you when I'm going on live to paint. So it's been a lot of fun. Have a wonderful day. Have a great Monday and have a great week. Bye, everyone.